Okay, today is Monday, 23rd February 2026, about midday, temperature 22 degrees centigrade, about 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Spring is almost here, although there may still be a few days of colder weather in the next couple of weeks or so. Now this is number 3 of the basics of keeping MEDAKA outdoors. I'm going to talk about the fish called MEDAKA. There's a lot of general information out on the internet for anybody who's interested in just having a quick search. They find a lot of information. However, the aspects of the fish, it appears to me, are possibly not generally known, and I'll ramble on about things that I found out that interest me. Now, the Japanese MEDAKA, Oryzaius latipes, is found in the wild over quite a wide area, not only in Japan, also in Southeast China, South Korea, Taiwan. However, in Japan for over 200 years, Japanese breeders have been developing ornamental varieties, much like the Chinese did with goldfish. And in some ways, the MEDAKA have become part of Japanese culture. So I don't have the wild form of Japanese MEDAKA, but to give some idea of what they look like, I've got a very close MEDAKA relative called the Hainan MEDAKA, Oryzaius curvinotus, which is found in North Vietnam and southwest China, including in the rice fields of a large island off the Chinese coast called Hainan Island. So MEDAKA, wild MEDAKA, are a small, plain fish. It's a surface-dwelling fish, and it prefers to be in open water rather than hidden away in the plants. Perhaps you can see that the eyes are towards the top of its head because it's, as I say, a surface-dwelling fish. And the name MEDAKA means high-eyed fish in Japanese. Now, the open water preference is why they're so visible and easy and interesting to observe. However, I would say that's only for ornamental MEDAKA. These wild versions are very shy. They hide away when people come near. They stay up the surface for feeding, but they hide away. But the ornamental MEDAKA, they're tame, and they're not usually scared of people. The other thing with this wild version is they jump. They can jump very high, whereas I never had an ornamental MEDAKA that has jumped at all. Now, in Japan, scientists have identified 2 distinct wild MEDAKA lineages. There are the northern Japanese MEDAKA and the southern Japanese MEDAKA. They look very similar, and for a long time they were considered the same. But genetic analysis has shown their DNA is somewhat different. They probably diverged from a common ancestor, but evolved separately in the north and south of the Japanese archipelago. The northern lineage involved in colder temperatures with a short summer, and may start spawning at temperatures in the wild as low as 12 degrees centigrade, irrespective of day length. Whereas the southern lineage, which evolved in warmer conditions with a long summer, and may not start spawning in the wild until temperatures reach maybe 18 to 20 degrees centigrade, and they'd need over 10 hours of day length. Now, the northern and southern MEDAKA interbreed very easily, and naturally they interbreed in the wild to produce hybrids. So these hybrids may spawn under differing conditions depending on what sort of percentage of northern DNA or southern DNA they have in their genetic makeup. Now, one of the things that's interesting to me is that these MEDAKA fish have specific characteristics which make them highly suitable for conducting scientific research. And I think for 100 years, millions of MEDAKA have been used in laboratories around the world. In fact, I think they're the perfect vertebrate model for carrying out various types of research. For example, the embryos are transparent. You can actually watch a heart form or see a brain develop under a microscope. And it was got a very short genome, I think. So it's one of the first vertebrates to have its entire genome sequenced. So some examples of research include like environmental science, to test pesticides in waterways and chemicals that mess with hormones. And if you look at medical genetics issues, includes such things as helping to understand birth defects and organ formation in all vertebrates, including humans, and can actually study bone diseases and even cancer. So over the years, scientists have created strains of MEDAKA with specific mutations. So, for example, they've created a mutation where they can watch tumours develop and test for new treatments for a tumour in a living animal. So, yeah, all a bit cruel, but this tiny fish has taught us an enormous amount about how life works. So, on to the ornamental MEDAKA, but first of all, just to say, as I said before, spring is here. I'm looking at these orange MEDAKA here. They've started spawning, and I don't know whether you can see, there are quite a large quantity of eggs on here already. I think it's about 2 days they've been producing these eggs. So yeah, spring is definitely here. So the ornamental MEDAKA, which are the result of those 200 plus years of breeding by the Japanese. Now something I've repeated several times in the past, you just can't say that a MEDAKA is a MEDAKA is a MEDAKA, and that all ornamental strains are robust and will thrive under the same conditions of water temperature, water quality, etc. Yeah, so maybe simplifying it, I'll go back to what I said about the northern and southern wild lineages of Japanese MEDAKA. Now, all ornamental strains are hybrids, probably of the wild northern and the southern lineages, and then they're all sort of interbred and whatever. So if you've got an ornamental strain which has more DNA from the northern wild lineage, then possibly it will be happier in colder conditions. Perhaps with more DNA from the southern wild lineage, it may require warmer conditions. Yeah, it's just stuff like that. But generalizing massively, it can probably be said that the simple, basic ornamental varieties are tough and probably breed easily. They're the equivalent of cold winter fish. They can live outdoors all year, even under ice, as long as the tub or the pond doesn't freeze solid. But they may suffer if summer temperatures are very high for long periods. But on the other hand, as I say, this is generalizing massively. The more highly bred and beautiful the fish, the more delicate it may tend to be, and may require specific breeding conditions of day length, water temperature, etc. So these extreme colours and fancy fins possibly come with a cost. They probably lose their hardiness or robustness. And almost all designer Medaka, I think, need warmer conditions. So if you have a pond full of beautiful, rare Medaka, you'll probably need to move them indoors to a heated tank for the winter. Now, I accept that maybe a lot of this stuff I've talked about might seem to be too complicated to be included in the basics video, but this is stuff that interests me, and also this is about keeping Medaka outdoors, and so conditions may differ considerably depending on the climate, water temperature, whether water freezes or whether it's a very hot summer, wherever the Medaka are kept. And this sort of background of what I've talked about maybe helps understand why this might appear to be so. So I say, Medaka are very adaptable, and they may just about survive in a very wide range of conditions. However, if the intention is to have healthy fish that will thrive outdoors, I've tried, as I say, to give a background as to why some strains may be better suited to the particular type of climate where the fish are going to be kept. Okay.